Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. This is Nathan Daley and I'm your law enforcement translator. You guys, 13-year law enforcement veteran here to provide insight on a lot of difficult current event issues, especially those surrounding law enforcement. And you guys, listen, I've been receiving a lot of emails in reference to the case involving those officers from Arkansas, the ones who brutally assaulted that young man, the victim. And listen, you guys, I saw the video, I saw the social media post that did go viral. Unfortunately, the time all this happened, I was out of town. I didn't get a chance to really address it. But I am going to talk about it now because there's more information that's come out in reference to this situation, in reference to the officers' conduct, their previous history as well. And so I'm going to do like a pretty well-rounded review, you guys, what my thoughts are. I don't know if these officers have body cam as well. But we do know we saw exactly what happened. I'm gonna give you my thoughts on it. So listen, I'm gonna play a small clip of the incident. So warning, you guys know it's graphic. If you have not seen it as of yet, we are gonna talk about it. And then they're gonna provide some additional information from this news clip we're gonna break down. Also, you guys, listen, every Wednesday I live stream on this channel. So if you're not familiar, if you're new for the first time, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. We'd love to have you part of this journey. You guys, we break down body cam footage, we break down incidents involving officers, and also current event things as well. So I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's dive into it, you guys. We're going to have a great discussion. Play.
Social media, he may not have been made aware of the incident. This video shows 3 law enforcement officers striking Randal Worcester in the head and body several times before a bystander filming calls out for them to stop. Crawford County Sheriff Jim DeMonte says deputies can use whatever force necessary to gain control of a person who is resisting arrest or violently attacking. We asked Sheriff DeMonte whether the level of force seen in this video is necessary after Worcester.
All right. Just looking at that initially, you guys, obviously that is excessive force. I am aware that the victim slash offender, what did he do? They were called out to a scene at the gas station where the victim slash offender had spat on, I guess, one of the clerks at the store, allegedly. And then the officer showed up. Allegedly, he also punched one of the officers or something to that effect. And then the officers took him down trying to arrest him. Now, here's the problem. The way it works, right? Let's just be honest when we break this down. I think a lot of people, what people value about my channel is that I'm just very honest about what the policies, the law, what that says, and what rights officers have, what rights the citizens have. And let's just be completely honest, you guys. The force has to match the force that's given. So if a citizen is actually physically fighting an officer has to match that force reasonably. When a person is absolutely just what we call passive resistance, where they're at a point where they're not complying, they're not cooperating, they're tucking their body in, they're not giving their hands, they're not putting their hands behind their back, and they're resisting arrest. What level of force is reasonable or acceptable, you guys? Not what we just saw, right? And at the same time, officers are tasked with de-escalating. So when that force is no longer a threat, the officers are supposed to de-escalate and match the force that's given at the time. Obviously, we don't see that. That's absolutely not how things are supposed to be handled. You see one officer slamming his head on the concrete. You see another officer doing knee strikes into the victim slash offender's body. And then the third officer, I don't know what he was doing. But from what we saw on that clip, yes, that is excessive force, absolutely excessive force. I'm interested to hear what the sheriff says, right? This is like the chief, right, of a department. Let's hear what the sheriff has to say about it. I'm curious.
Is seen on the ground.
I can't answer for their state of mind like right now, like I said, but I'm investigating all that, and that's what we're looking into. What force they used and how much force they used.
All Arkansas law enforcement officers go through use of force training during their respective academy, and Sheriff DeMonte.
Now the sheriff makes a valid point, right? These things do need to be investigated. What would I have said? I would have said yes. The force does look excessive. That's not how officers are trained based on what we saw, but it's still under investigation. We need to see everything in its totality. I'm curious if these sheriffs, deputies have body cameras. We would definitely need to see what's actually happening from start to finish.
believes that was the last time either of his deputies received such training. He says their actions reflect poorly on the department as a whole and is impacting morale.
It hurts morale. Nobody condones this type of activity or this kind of violence.
When asked how the video portrays how the department handles incidents, DeMonte responded by saying,
"We've got bad apples in every profession in this country, everywhere, every job. And sometimes those people do slip by, and it does take time to weed them out, unfortunately."
However, he did say this incident will not be swept under the rug.
They will be punished for what they did if they are found to be in violation of any rights, laws, or anything like that.
Okay, I mean, I can respect that. He's absolutely correct, right? We still have to investigate. A lot of times when it comes to these type of situations, people do take a snapshot, but I'm gonna tell you that snapshot is very telling, right? So, but I am curious to know how this whole thing started, what happened beforehand, in order to give a proper assessment. But I'll tell you just from that snippet, that slamming his head on the concrete like that, kneeing him like that, 3 officers who could not simply use self-defense tactics or defensive tactics in order to do joint manipulations, things of that nature, to actually get him in custody is absolutely unacceptable, right? It's unacceptable. It's different if there was a weapon, like a gun type of thing. He had just finished killing people to some degree or whatever, but that's not the case. This level of force, I'm sorry, does not match the situation or the circumstances. So I'm curious to know how this investigation will turn out.
Attorneys Carrie Jernigan and David Powell say Randal Worcester had multiple scratches on his face and knees, and that he complained of pain to his head, describing the right side of his face as purple and swollen.
He seems to be in good spirits today. Obviously, he's still sore. I believe he's maybe more sore today than he was yesterday, but he indicates that he has faith in the process.
The attorneys saw video of the incident, saying they were horrified this occurred in their backyard, but glad someone was there to capture the incident.
I'm obviously glad for my client that someone did pull out their camera phone, was able to capture this. Otherwise, we may not ever know what happened to him.
I think it could have gotten much worse because I think the brutality was escalating, and I'm just thankful she stood up for what she believed in.
The attorneys say Worcester mentioned it essentially being an attack on ground for what seemed like a couple of minutes.
There just has to be a point where if the ability to subdue, once that ends, you cannot use excessive force. It violates the 4th Amendment that is to protect us from excessive force against law enforcement.
As Arkansas State Police investigate, Worcester's attorneys hope for swift action.
If there is a trial in this situation, I hope it's one of the officers.
Law enforcement officers, 1 Mulberry officer, 2 Crawford County deputies whose actions are now under investigation this evening. 5 News reporter Catherine Gilker live now in the newsroom.
She's been working to learn more about these law enforcement officers today. Catherine?
One of the law enforcement officers involved is a Mulberry police officer. The other 2 are Crawford County Sheriff's deputies. According to the Crawford County Sheriff, none of these men are rookies, and they have all been in law enforcement for some time. Mulberry Police Officer Thel Riddle, Deputy Zach King, and Deputy Levi White have been identified as the officers involved in Sunday's incident.
The officers, none of them are rookies. They've been in law enforcement for some time.
Thel Riddle has been a Mulberry police officer since March of 2017. The sheriff says he worked at the Crawford County Sheriff's Office in the past before leaving in the early 2000s to go work in Oklahoma, then returning to work in Mulberry. In August of 2019, we spoke to Officer Riddle after he was recognized by Senator John Bozeman for stepping in to help salvage the belongings of military members whose belongings were inside a moving truck that caught fire in Mulberry. Everything inside was believed to be a total loss, but that wasn't the case. Here is an excerpt from that 2019 interview.
It's all a part of ethics and morals. Doing the right thing when no one else is watching, that's what I was trying to achieve.
As for Crawford County deputies Zach King and Levi.
Oh man, that's not a good look. That's not a good look at all. They're gonna challenge him on his ethics and morals when it's time to start asking questions about this incident. We're gonna see if that rings true. What really happened? Did these officers have body camera? What are they gonna say? How are they gonna respond to this? You know, the optics on this looks absolutely horrifying. Absolutely horrifying. So that's going to be interesting.
Levi White, the sheriff says one has been in law enforcement for 3 or 4 years and the other has been in law enforcement for 5 or 6 years, but he did not specify the exact experience for either. Attorney Carrie Jernigan, who is representing Worcester, says she requested an investigation into Deputy Levi White a month ago over an excessive force complaint from another one of her clients.
In 15 years of practicing, I have never had to do that on an officer, and it's not something I took lightly.
Jernigan believes she made the formal complaint correctly. She even made her client available to give a full statement about what allegedly happened on July 13th. She says,
Wow. What does that mean, you guys? There's a pattern with Levi, right? Levy or Levi, whatever his name is. They have a pattern. She was already investigating him. She already has another client in regard to him using excessive force. That right there just goes to show you exactly what the problem is. I believe it looked like Levi was the one who was slamming his head on the concrete, right? That looks like that might have been him. When there's smoke, there's fire.
she hasn't heard anything back from the sheriff's office.
When I saw the video yesterday, I had not seen, Mr. White was not somebody I knew, but the description of what happened to my client in July versus that video seemed almost identical. And so we're just of the position it didn't have to even take place yesterday.
Wow. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. And it looks like apparently they've been making complaints. I wonder if the sheriff is going to be able to escape from this too. It seems like this thing has been going on in his backyard. Is the sheriff going to be able to justify why this hasn't been addressed properly? This is going to be interesting, you guys. I'm curious to see how this is going to unfold.
We have asked Jernigan for any paperwork related to her other client's complaint regarding Deputy White. We'll let you know when we have more details on that complaint. Catherine Gilker, 5 News.
All right, Catherine, thanks. We do know tonight.
Protocol, as you know, throughout the country, is protocol to suspend them with pay on administrative leave until we can do an investigation.
And here's a look at who we know so far is investigating the use of force. And new today, we've learned the FBI and the Department of Justice are looking into this case. The Crawford County Sheriff says his department is doing its own internal investigation, as is Arkansas State Police.
Shout out to the FBI for getting involved. Absolutely needed to get some fresh pair of eyes on this. This is absolutely, probably more than likely going to be a violation of this man's constitutional rights. That's going to be a thing. So it looks like definitely going to be a civil lawsuit involved as well. I can't imagine how it goes from an unarmed person who allegedly punched an officer to now being jumped by 3 officers. Honestly, simply from not cooperating and not putting your hands behind your back, not resisting arrest. So we've seen this all too often, right? In other cases, we've seen this with black victims as well. Black offenders, black/victims, and then here we are here. Again, like I said, you guys, this is white people too, right? This segment of this channel, white people too. The whole point is to just show that, again, police brutality has nothing to do with color, has everything to do with ego, stupidity, and officers that just want to take their authority above and beyond, as if they have a God complex, right? So I pray that, everyone, all the truth comes out. We get a well-rounded perspective of what happened, and that if these officers, of course, have violated anything, that they are held to the highest extent of the law, and that they are disciplined and held accountable. Period. Absolutely, period.
This is not what our law enforcement community represents. It's not the proper response.
It's going to take some time. They're out there working right now to gather the facts and the evidence. And once we get the facts and evidence, they prepare a case file and a summary, and then we'll turn it over to the prosecutor, who then will decide what the appropriate charges are.
Now, once the prosecutor gets this, they will then decide of whether to release that dash cam video from the Mulberry Police Department's car to the public, which the Crawford County Sheriff's Office says actually led up to that cell phone video that has gone viral.
I spoke with Professor Taylor this afternoon, who told me it's the officer's response that'll be the focus.
The 30-second clip, while it's very disturbing to watch, it is only a small portion, only tells a small tale of what went on in its entirety. Apparently the officers were attacked, and this was their response to that attack. The question becomes, was that a reasonable use of force to that attack, or was it excessive?
He's right. He's right at the fact that it is a small clip of a larger incident. This is very true. And that the way this is going to be judged is based on, was the officer's action reasonable? Was it reasonable based on what was presented to them, the danger that was presented to them? You guys, just based off of that clip, no, right? Their actions were not reasonable at all whatsoever. Why do I say that? Because the moment a person has stopped, right, attacking or stopped resisting, you guys, the force and the level of force also has to stop along with it. That is a fact. That's the law. That's how it's supposed to work. It's called de-escalation. When an officer does not de-escalate, then that force becomes unjustified, an unjustified use of force. The question is, what did he actually do to the police? Which would require the 3 officers to beat him in such a way, in such a manner, you guys. I don't know, but they better come with some strong evidence. But regardless of what they come up with, the moment, again, that the force stopped, you guys, the officers also have to stop and reduce. And with 3 officers there, there's no justification for what they did. They could have mitigated that situation completely different. So I'm curious to see they didn't say body cam, so obviously they don't have body cameras, but they do have a dash cam. What needs to be implemented, and I said this over and over again, every law enforcement officer and agency should have body cameras. There's no excuse at this point. There's no reason why anyone should be enforcing the law on citizens without the citizens being able to see. And so, I don't know. That's what we have so far, you guys. And, I'm going to keep my ear to this case because I'm really, really curious to see how it turns out. I wanted to wait as long as possible to get some more additional information, but we got some very good updates in regards to the officer's past behavior in reference to the use of force, and also that they are being investigated, and the FBI have gotten involved behind this. So we're definitely going to get some information. So anyways, let me know your thoughts, you guys, in reference to this. Was this justified? Does it look justified? Is it possible that this could be justified, or is it just flat out the 30 seconds said enough, right? Anyways, let me know your thoughts, you guys. With that, good night and God bless.